Shalom Aleichem Rabotai. For Zois Chanukah, the Mishnah Yomi is continuing in the 13th parak of Shabbat, Mishnah Bet. Now, yesterday we started talking about weaving and sewing, ariga. Now we're going to get into more details of that, when that is chayev on Shabbat. Ha'osei shtei bate nirin banirin. Somebody who makes two houses of a nir in the nirin. So the Bartner here explains this is a weaving apparatus, and if you have the pictures or illustrations, it's very helpful. So Bartner here says, Shenalton shnei chutin shel sheti benir. He puts two shesi threads, two warp threads through the nir, which is like a heddle. It's like a sort of a box with strings in it with little loops, and you put the threads you're weaving through these little loops, and you move them up and down by way of foot pedals, later by way of machinery, and by moving these up and down, you can pass the weft thread through very quickly, and you can accomplish your weaving much faster. So setting up this apparatus, putting two threads through two of these frames, these beit nirin, to enable you to do the weaving or enable your machine to start doing the weaving, this is an av melacha. You're basically setting up the weaving process so it can continue readily. The Mishnah continues, but kiros is a palm fiber that was woven into household items. Benafe, or he's weaving a sifter. Bechivra, a kivra is a sieve, similar to the nafa, the sifter, a visal, a basket. Chayev. So weaving any of these items is chayev. And again, the shear is when he makes shtei baterin, when he makes two of these passes with this mechanism, or he's doing two weaves like this over, under, or around, depending on if he's making the basket or the sieve. The sieve is also sort of a woven material. Sifters is kind of like you're weaving something. So you make two of these over, under kind of stitches, then he's chayev. The Mishnah continues that tofer, someone who sews, shtei tefirot, two stitches. The Gemara explains you're starting on the right side. For example, if there's a rip in a garment, you're starting on the right side, you make one stitch towards the left side through the material, then out of the material and back to the right side. That's already considered two stitches. I'm not sure if in modern sewing parlance that's considered one stitch or a full stitch, but in the Gemara that's considered two stitches already. And the Mishnah adds, "V'hakorea al menat litfor shtei tefirot," and someone who rips in order to sew two stitches, he's also chayev. So korea is also an av melacha, but here he's ripping, he's destroying, making a tear in the garment or in something in order to fix it properly. Mishnah Gimel, hakorea bechamato, someone who tears because he's angry, he's ripping something. Not that someone should do this. The Chazal say that this is akin to a form of avodah zarah, if someone destroys something out of anger. But here he's ripping because he's angry, not because he wants to fix it. The almeto, or he's tearing kriya because he had a family member who passed away. The kola mitkolkalina, anyone who is actually destroying something. It's a destructive action, not a creative action or a minor destruction in order to allow a repair or creation. Pturin, they are putter. The Mishnah concludes, "V'hamekolkel omenat lataken." Someone who destroys in order to repair, shiru kimitaken. The shear is how much it is for repairing. So if he's busting a little hole in the wall in order to fix the wall, then we saw in bone is koshahu, is any amount of repair would be chayev, and we saw by sewing it'd be two stitches. So if he's tearing a little bit in order to sew the two stitches back and forth to fix it, he'd be chayev. Now the Bartner here says hamanitin adochile. The Gemara actually rejects the Mishnah. And the halach is somebody who tears out of anger, he is chayev. Why? She'afal pi she'mekalkelhu etzel beged. Even though he's mekalkel the beged, he's ripping up the beged, the garment. Metaken hu etzel yitzro. He's metaken his yetzer. He's metaken his anger through that. V'daito mitishevet alav bekach, and his mind is calmed through the destructive act. So he's actually fixing something through destruction. And of course, on Zayis Chanukah, on Lastiv Chanukah, it reminds us that sometimes difficult and destructive acts are necessary to rebuild or rededicate or reconsecrate. We saw the Gemara said the Hashmonaim had to unbuild the Mizbeach, the altar that had been defiled by the Greeks, and rebuild a brand new Mizbeach, and that's just part of it. And sometimes we have to be willing to do difficult things to remove negative influences and start rebuilding on a clean slate. Shkayach Rabotai, Chazak Baruch.